Hello, 8th graders. We're going to be talking about your transformation project. So you get to design any design you want. I just made this little random thing that looks like a squirrel, so that's why I put a bushy tail on him. You need to have 10 letters, 10 coordinates in this. So that's why you have A through J here. You have to have 10, okay? So I made my design. Now you have to go through and label what those points are. So A, if I went over 3 and up 11, that'd be 311. That's the original coordinate. You need to have this recorded on, and this is a Google Doc, so you can just type it in. I chose to print it out so that you guys could see this easier. Okay, so now you need to decide how you're going to reflect that image. I chose to put it up in the first quadrant. You can put it anywhere you want. Your image can go in any quadrant that you want. You have to kind of keep in mind that you're going to end up doing 3 transformations, so you have to kind of prepare in advance. So I took my original and I decided that my reflection is going to be across the x-axis. So that's why I chose x-axis. You need to show me what your transformation is. You have to either decide, is it the y or is it the x? So you could just delete this out and leave it as x-axis if that's what you choose. So if I'm reflecting over the x-axis, this squirrel needs to be reflected down. Okay, so I'd go over 3 and I went up 11. So instead of over 3 and up 11, you'd have to go over 3 and down 11. So over 3, down 11, make a mark and label it A again. Okay, so this A needs to be labeled, this A needs to be labeled. Also needs to be recorded over here. So I went over 3, down 11, 3, negative 11. Okay, then you do the same for B. B is over 7, up 15. So if I'm reflecting it, if I'm going down, I'd be going over 7, down 15. Put a dot, make a B next to it, needs to be labeled, and record it in your sheet. Okay, now you got to decide how many degrees you would like to rotate it. You want your image to show up in each quadrant. So you kind of have to think, so how could, I already use this quadrant. So what degree could that do? So I chose to do 180 degrees. And you can always look back at your notes, because 180 degrees changes your XY to a negative X, negative Y. So sometimes it's easier to just have your coordinate here and then fill this in. So if I know that this changes to a negative X, negative Y, I have negative 3, negative 11. So when negative 3, negative 11, put an A. Okay, 7, 15. Okay, well, that changes to a negative 7, negative 15. So I went over to negative 7, down to 15. I would just do all my points out first and then connect the shape. So you can see how the squirrel, he's going to end up upside down. He's going to look silly. Okay, but as long as I keep the numbers correct, you'll see that the shape will form after. So I would do A, B, C, D all the way through J and then just connect them like a dot to dot. Okay, now that's how many, and you need to specify how many degrees you're rotating. That is something I'm looking for. Then you also have to translate. Translate, remember, is just to move. So I'm going to move this squirrel over here. I decided to move him over. I'm going to move his x coordinates. I'm going to the left, so that means I need to subtract. So I'm going to subtract 12, and then I decided to move him just up 2. You get to pick your numbers, but you need to specify and tell me what those numbers are. So again, sometimes it's easier just to do the math. So I did the 3 minus the 12 to give me negative 9, and then the 11 plus the 2 to get me 13. Okay, so then I went over to negative 9, 13, put an A. Okay, then I did the B. Okay, you have to kind of pre-think, how could I move this whole squirrel way over here? It might be a little bit more than you think it is. Don't just do +3, because otherwise your squirrel's going to be on top of itself. So think about it. It's a really kind of a fun project. I might even throw in some extra credit points if you color and make it look nice. This squirrel looks kind of silly, but I think if I had some coloring, he might be really cute. And make sure that you turn this document in. This can be right in Google Docs. Go ahead and type it in. Now take a picture of your actual drawing and send that to me too. Any questions, let me know.